Hi, I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio, and welcome to the Mayor's Roundtable, a semi-roundtable with intelligent conversation all about Berkeley Heights with our mayor, Robert Woodruff. Mayor, another great meeting you had this week about the redevelopment. Went very smoothly, very informative. I know we have to touch on that a little bit tonight. However, let's revisit some of the things that have been on the table lately. We have until November, I believe it is, to get the COA affordable housing taken care of. That's correct?
Well, there's a couple of dates we need to keep in mind, Doc. The first date is July 8th, and that's when our council will be submitting papers to the court, which essentially, if we're successful, what our goal is at that point in time is to have the court declare or otherwise indicate that we have immunity, meaning the town is immune from any builder's remedy lawsuits, at least at that point in time. And we then have until November to put together our overall plan. I think all of this, as I've said repeatedly on this show, is subject to change because this is really a matter of first impression with the courts. And I am envisioning all of these towns putting in substantial amounts of paper and the courts having to make decisions within a real short time frame. So we're comfortable. We our professionals have worked very hard in conjunction with members of our council and as well as our Affordable Housing Council, and we think we're going to be in pretty good shape to get all the necessary documents before the court, and we think we have a very defensible position. Now,
when you say a lot of paperwork's coming down, does that mean the courts are going to get bogged down, you think?
I don't see how they're not. Okay, I just think the very nature of what they're being asked to do, and again, this is the first time that this obligation has been placed on the courts. And my understanding is that the Union County judge who's handling this may have anywhere from 29 to 35 different towns that are going to be within his vicinage, as they call it. So now there may be towns that just let this fly, and let it go. We didn't think it was in our best interest to do that. So we're prepared to address it.
Right, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. However, the other thing we want to keep an eye on is, previous show, the roads. We're working on repaving the roads. And what's the status on that?
Okay, actually, I've got a fair amount to report on that. From road repair, meaning that is the day-to-day fill the pothole that somebody's car just went into, okay? We've put down over 160 tons of asphalt since January. So, but those are generally temporary circumstances, and I think everybody understands that. However, our actual road paving is well underway. We've done Glenside, Roland, and Beatty, and I have a list here going from Snyder, portions of Snyder, Southview, Twin Falls, Oakway, Cambridge, Holly Glen, north and south. And Sherman Avenue and Berkeley Avenue, portions of that. So all of these we expect to be done, hopefully before July 4th.
Wow,
yeah,
that'd be great.
We've been fortunate. We've got a few grants, and we're getting on top of a lot of this right now. So we think that's a pretty good effort so far. And we intend, and we've advised, John Basiclo, our township administrator, has advised the engineering department that whatever amount of money you have, spend it.
Got it.
Get the roads done.
Got it. Now, they originally walked all the roads, they figured out what needed to be done, but roads are being used all the time. They're constantly being banged up, literally. So does that sequence of repaving ever get revisited? I mean, what if something changes in the years of repaving schedule?
Yes, the original effort that was done by our DPW about 2 years ago obviously gave us a standard. It gave us something to begin with. And I think we all realize that you're right, some of these roads would deteriorate in a different fashion than the others, and in fact they have. So the next question is, do we go back over 55 miles of roads? Is that a productive use of our employees' time, or do we simply take that and work off it? And sometimes some individuals have come forward and said their particular road has some issues. Would you look at it? And our people have gone up and said, you know what, maybe they go from this number to this number.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we have to be flexible. But we're doing our best, okay? And like I said, I just rattled off about 13 or 14 roads in addition to the 3 or 4 that we've already done.
Nice, nice.
So we're getting there.
What about our hot box? We don't need it this time of year. Have we already purchased it?
That's been in play now for a while. You're right, we don't need it. I'd also like to comment that we just received our new street sweeper.
Very nice.
Well,
how about a round of applause from our live audience on that? I think that's great. I think that's great.
And I know that it's the goal of the DPW to have that street sweeper on the roads every day.
Nice.
So, and they'll be doing various zones. The town is zoned, at least at how the DPW wants to address the town. So that's good news.
Great, great.
So we're in pretty good shape there.
So things are moving along nicely. Things are moving along nicely.
Not bad.
And I do want to remind everybody in town, it is the third Thursday of every month, 7 o'clock, 6:45, get here to get a nice seat. Live audience, come down, participate. We want to hear you, all right? We want to have you here and support us. So again, thanks for our live audience that's here tonight. So there we go. Give yourselves a hand. All right.
Enthusiastic, Don.
That's it. So roads are coming along nicely.
Yep.
Anything happening in the municipal offices that people need to find out about during the summertime?
No. Obviously, our clerk's office is open, all right, every day until 4 o'clock. And if there are any questions that anyone has, they're free to come down, and I'll get in a little bit more as to our involvement, where documents can be located to assist them with respect to the redevelopment project, which will also be available for individuals. But,
so that clearly is the topic du jour, shall we say, the redevelopment. A lot of information came out at the meeting on the 16th, and that will also be on, by the time this show's on air, that will be on air. So anybody who missed it, it'll be on air. The link will be on the website, tap into, so watch it. You mentioned ongoing updates at every council meeting.
Correct.
So what can we expect at this point in terms of updates as we move forward? Because people want the answers.
I completely understood. We are going to make every effort at each council meeting during the open session, the conference session, to speak individually as elected officials as to what the position, our respective positions are at that point in time, given where we're at and what's immediate. We are continually encourage people to come to these meetings, put your questions forward. If you have a critique, be critical, whatever it is. And we think we had a tremendous meeting on Tuesday night, and we'll get into that with Ms. Kingsley and Mr. Hall, our special guests tonight. But I thought it was a great meeting, and I'm looking forward to listening to what Kevin and Jean have to say with respect to their observations of Tuesday night.
Well, that brings us to a juncture of where we want to lead this. Tonight, you are going to have 2 additional guests. You mentioned the president of the council, Kingsley. And then Kevin Hall is also going to be a return guest.
A return guest. Kevin's a veteran.
Yeah.
That's Kevin right now.
There you go. That's right. Kevin, we've got to work on his clapping. He's going to bring his family next time, and you'll get a little bit better turnout. So you want to get some very targeted questions to them specifically. Why is that? Why do you want to handle targeted questions to targeted people?
Well, 2 reasons. One, Jean is our council president and is also a member of our redevelopment committee. She's been extremely involved in this, and Kevin has been our point person, essentially de facto and de jure, if you would, really since the start of this. And we've always felt it was important to speak through one voice, and we've been pretty good at that. And these 2 individuals, I think it's appropriate at this point in time many people did not make Tuesday night, okay? And if this is their opportunity to see it, maybe hit some key points and also to speak about what's next.
Got it. So we can really dial it in. Yep. But again, not everybody can make all the meetings. Not everybody can make the council meetings. Not everybody can make these filmings. But that's the goal of the communications committee, to get this information out to the public, to get it out, to be completely transparent on what's going on in City Hall as best we can, and to answer your questions. So that's the commitment of the communications committee, to use this media, to use the web, shall we say, and video to get this information out. So with that said, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to segue to a slightly different format now. It's going to be the mayor on the Mayor's Roundtable with the council. So you have those special questions to lead the conversation. So I'm going to step aside. You're going to talk to Council President Kingsley and Councilman Hall, and then we'll close it up at the end. We're going to take a short break, and the mayor will be back with you. Dr. Donald DeFabio. Well, the Communications Committee has put this show together. It's also done a lot of work at getting the information out to you, and it wouldn't be happening without Nick Schiavo, our chair. Nick, thank you for your years and years of dedication and thankless dedication and volunteerism for getting this job done.
Thank you, Doc. It's great. It's good to create the committee, work with great people, and work with the community.
Well, again, and we appreciate it. A lot is happening with the Communications Committee that I don't think people know about. What's happening and what can we expect?
Okay, what's happening right now, we're going to do the second generation of the township website.
Nice. Now, second generation meaning what?
Okay, well, first we got to thank Charlie Pratt, the webmaster, who really started from the beginning with the first generation, and he's built it up to today. But as of today, now with the new technology, whether you replace your computer or your phone, we're now going to the next generation of the website.
So what can people expect from the new rebuild?
Okay, well, very high-tech information. For an example, there's going to be push-out of events. And what is a push-out? So, summer concerts. You can sign up as a resident for the summer concert series. That morning, there'll be a push-out. Please come to Memorial Park. Township council meetings. You know, on a Tuesday, you'll get a push-out. Here you go. Recyclables, you know, that'll be pushed out.
That's right. Are my recyclables today, or is it a big trash pickup, or is it refuse?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one aspect. You know, the technology today allows push-outs. The other technology is more ease in use of just finding out, you know, who do I speak to on council, who at the administrator, etc. But there's also going to be some behind the scenes which allows just to help the government. And then when you help the government, you're helping the citizens. For an example, automated RFPs, requests for proposals. We're a town, a lot going on. So now we can automate that process. And why do I say that's helpful? Well, when you help the township administrator with analyzing this, etc., you make strategic decisions, you save money, and in turn it helps the township.
Sounds great. So we got the video production going on. We want to highlight the township committee meetings. We want to highlight the mayor. We also want to highlight businesses in town to let people know what's going on in town. We have the website development, and now that website's got to get populated. Right. How's that information going to get up there?
We're going to reach out. We're going to reach out to the citizens, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a resident, you just have an interest in just helping out the community. For an example, we spoke to many vendors about the website, from small, medium, and large. We have a good focus on where we want to go next. So once we do the RFP, we're now going to be given a blank sheet of paper by this vendor to say, how do you want to populate it? And that's where the Communications Committee is reaching out to the residents. You don't have to be an expert. You could be someone at your house who many years in the community just came to the community with an idea. You're a business owner and you want to kind of say, how can we highlight businesses? So throughout the summer, throughout the fall, we want to work with the citizens, so please contact the Communications Committee.
Which means you, Nick. Contact Nick. So Nick, what's your contact information?
NickSchiavo1@gmail.com. We'll type it in here, but it's NickSchiavo1@gmail.com. We'll also be having our Communication Committee meetings. And where can you find that? On the website.
Yeah,
and what's the website? www.berkeleyheightstwp.com.
It's all tied together. Nick, you've been doing this for about 7, 8 years, I believe. Thank you once again. We really appreciate it. Volunteer, make a difference, help us make the website fantastic. Let's go back to the show.
Welcome back, and I want to thank my mentor, Dr. Fabio, for stepping aside and allowing me to speak to 2 council people today who I think will provide some sufficient and extreme insight with respect to what happened this past Tuesday. With me tonight on my left, the better looking of the two, Gene Kingsley is our council president. Gene has been extremely involved, as I indicated earlier, with the redevelopment committee. And I want to personally thank her for her efforts, which have brought us along. The gentleman to my right, Kevin Hall, has been our point person really since the start of this, when we began looking into this. And it's been the council's concern and position from the start that we do our best to speak with one voice, and Kevin has done an outstanding job at that. And his comments the other night on Tuesday were very, very well received. But let me start this way with each of you. Kev, Tuesday night, we had a chance to bring our professionals out to the public. Our goal has been transparency. We've all worked very, very hard at that. What are your thoughts about Tuesday night?
I thought Tuesday night went very, very well. The information presented was really the culmination of 2 years worth of work of analysis and research. A huge amount of information was presented, but in a very coherent, understandable way. And it really allowed the community the opportunity to understand the scope of what we're looking at, the complexities of it, all the different opportunities and the scenarios which are available, but in a way that's logical, understandable. And so I thought it was very well received, and I thought the questions and the comments from the community were very, very valuable and insightful. Okay,
Gene, we've made every attempt to address the issue of transparency. How do you think that came off on Tuesday night?
I mean, I think our professionals were outstanding. It's a complicated process, as Kevin said. There's a significant amount of moving parts. When you look at it, you know, we're talking a $25 to $30 million capital project, which is huge, whether you're a corporation or a township. And with that, I think it's really important that we, as a governing body, you know, we are fair, we are objective, and complete, and yet transparent. And I think our professionals really across the board, you know, hit a home run on all of those fronts.
Kev, the other night provided various options, if you would, okay? And our goal was to determine not only on this site, which is the Park Avenue site, but the Hamilton Avenue site, which is commonly known as the Little Flower, to provide us with, meaning the council and the township, with the kind of information that would allow us to view various options. What are your thoughts about the options as they came out on Tuesday evening?
No, I thought the options were, there were many different options presented. You know, I think going into it, when a lot of people talk about redevelopment, I think that the concept concerns people. They don't really know what that means. What does it mean that the town considers redevelopment? At the end of the day, redevelopment is nothing more than how do we manage our municipal facilities? How do we manage the police department, the library, all of the different buildings and services which we need to, you know, to accommodate the community. And really these options presented really took into account different affected properties, our property here, the possibility of including Hamilton in this redevelopment concept of the management of our facilities, and to say, you know, where do we want to put the municipal building, what is optimum, what are the complementary uses of the other properties from a retail, from a residential perspective. And I think it really allowed people the opportunity to look at how all of these properties and the uses of those properties collectively can provide a very constructive redevelopment for the community.
You know, Gene, when this first started, and that is our initial charge here when the church came to the council, was essentially to look at the viability or the possibility of exchanging properties, all right? And that was really what we did to begin with. I know personally that when this all first began, I had certain ideas about where things might be, okay? And they've moved, they've morphed, they've changed. How about yourself?
I think myself definitely, and I think the entire council, I think it's been a transformation, and a lot of it's been because of the information that's been gathered. I mean, we started out with the needs of an aging infrastructure, and even this facilities that we have to date, we've really never had an adequate community center for this town. You know, we have jammed our rec facilities into a building here. It's less than optimal. Our seniors have to rent a facility somewhere else to hold their meetings. We've really never had all of the facilities that we really need to service the community from, you know, infant to old age. And I think the Hamilton Avenue campus was the first time we could look at potentially developing something that would meet the needs for the entire community. And it was a wonderful opportunity for that. And which is why I think we all jumped on this is fascinating. But what's even more exciting is when we look at the opportunity to potentially build something new here on a facility that has a lot of historic significance to all of us in town, because this is where Town Hall's always been, and it's kind of, you know, the entry into our downtown area. And the fact that we could have new and meet the needs of the entire community, including the library, where we can get something that's much more usable for everybody of all ages. And we can expand on the commuter parking. And if we do the land transaction with Hamilton Avenue, we can have an ability to fund this new construction and bring it down to a lower cost than just trying to fit into an aged building that might come with some issues already.
I agree. I think that when Little Flower first gave this proposal to us that we consider this land transaction, most people felt that this property, the configuration, the size of it, could not accommodate a new municipal facility. So it was almost preordained that we would actually migrate over and consider that Hamilton property as our new home, quote unquote. And I think what Tuesday night's presentation really made very clear is that each of these properties are suitable. And the question is, where do we want the complex? What's in the best interest of the community? And also, by developing complementary to the other property, what are the added value to that, increasing the rate?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, I think we all thought that this property was going to be so incredibly valuable that it would make sense to potentially sell this to a developer and relocate over there.
Exactly.
And I think what we learned by having the survey done is this is a really funky piece of property. And the way it's currently configured, it might not be as valuable as we've seen. And we learned that the Hamilton Avenue property could be probably more valuable to us from a funding mechanism. And yet this property can house everything we need, including the community center and a library and expanded parking beautifully. Right. And do it at a lower cost.
Right. I mean,
so I think that was...
Yeah, this property satisfies our needs.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that...
Potential
needs. I think one of the many things that came out Tuesday night was the ability that our architects showed to place on this property a very highly functional, aesthetic building while still allowing us to operate out of this structure, because it would have been cost prohibitive to basically raise this structure and meanwhile carry on the government's functions and duties. It was estimated, and I think it's probably a little low, that it would probably cost over $1 million a year just to take everybody and find places for them. So that was a headache, which I think each of us originally thought when we talked about possibly what we would do on the spot. So the architects, I think, they did a tremendous job, and they did come up with really two different approaches to this particular lot. Is that correct, Kev?
That's correct. It's interesting that we had done that needs analysis, so they knew what the mandate was. They had to see to what degree can we construct a facility that addresses all of our needs, satisfies all of the requirements of those offices, and at the same time did not compromise the commuter parking. And they came up with two different options, each of which you can sort of check the boxes. It satisfies it. They have two different approaches to where to put the building and how to configure it, so the aesthetic might be different, but the usefulness is the same. And I think as the community, when we start next Tuesday to talk about this, we have to sort of compare and contrast the different approaches they did to developing the property.
Gene, a lot of people have asked, how did we come up with these project costs? I mean, obviously, our architect had an obligation, our planner had an obligation, and okay, we came up with a figure of 26 million or thereabout to construct the facility on this spot. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I think first and foremost, everybody needs to realize these are concepts, and these are really rough estimates, because we don't have a detailed architectural plan. We don't know what with the plumbing. We don't know the windows. We don't know the siding. And we don't even know the cost of clearing the land. So they had to come up with a framework and rough estimates so we could figure out how big is the bread box that we're going to be dealing with here. And that being said, I think both the architect and the planner, when it came to estimates, they looked at industry standards, they looked at comparable builds in other places, and they went to price estimators to say, you know, in New Jersey, working within the confines of a municipal development, what would the cost to build be if you were doing a police department versus a library versus a recreation center? And they've done their best. I think they are highly conservative. And when you're doing an estimate for financial purposes, conservative tends to mean you err on the side of high, because you don't want to quote a number and then ultimately go out to bid and have that number come in higher than you told the public.
Right, so you round up on the cost and you round down on the revenue.
And so there's another point, and the planner, when he's estimating the proceeds for the land, he's being ultimately very conservative on what we could get for the sale of that land, because again, you want to manage the expectations so that when you ultimately take this out to bid or decide to go forward with it, the numbers that actually come in can only look as good or better.
You know, Kev, along that line, we've had some discussions about revenue, because obviously it's our obligation as elected officials to try and bring that cost down in a responsible manner while still satisfying all our needs. It seemed quite clear that at least the current plan, possible plan, okay, allows us to significantly bite into that overall figure. Would you agree with that?
I think the inclusion of the Hamilton property is material to the economics of this. I think just looking at the numbers at face value, I think to limit the redevelopment to Park Avenue only increases the cost materially. So I think we really have to consider Hamilton to defray the cost.
Okay, let me ask you both. I'll start with you, Kev. Okay. Due diligence has pretty much been completed, subject to some tightening up and what have you. We're going to discuss that. My question to you is this: what's next?
You know, I think we're at an inflection point. This is, the project is now, I think, is taking a new direction. We've spent the last 2 years doing extensive research and analysis. I think we understand the framework, what the issues are broadly speaking. And now it's time to develop an action plan. Time frame, I think now between now and September. If we choose to include the Hamilton Park, the Hamilton Avenue property, you know, we have the maturity or the expiration of that contract with Little Flower, therefore we have to be in a position to execute that. So I think that ultimately, what's the action plan? Starting Tuesday, we have to start a series of discussions. We have to agree on what our priorities are. You know, density, location, pricing. We have to come up with a strategy. Do we want to include the Hamilton property or not? Because that's going to be material to what the eventual plan is. And lastly, we have to agree on a redevelopment plan at the end of the summer to be in a position to execute that real estate transaction or not. So I think it's action time. Okay,
well, that was a quick 15 minutes or so, and maybe it's not. I think it's hard for the doc. Maybe it's not that hard. You sit up here and everything moves quicker. But Kevin, I want to thank you, and Gene, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the people on the committee, as well as all of those that showed up on Tuesday night. And we're in this together. Okay, all of us are in this together.
The next meeting is Tuesday night, June 23rd, and I encourage people to come to the council meetings and pay attention and give us your input.
And participate.
We really need everybody involved.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll be back shortly with the doc. Thank you.
Welcome back to the show, and Mayor, great job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Very impressive.
Well, you're my mentor.
Well, I heard that. Thanks for the shout out. I'll take it. I'll take it. Let's finish up the show real briefly. We have our questions for the mayor. Dolores A. had contacted us about an Optimum cable question, and
well, we need to get some more information.
Okay.
Okay. We tell Dolores that we will answer that question. We just needed to firm up a few facts before we respond.
Okay, so we did get the question, so thank you very much. It'll be on tap for next time. And remember, send your questions for the mayor to Tap Online, Bobby Peer, and get it to us, and we'll get it to him. What are your take-homes from this show? Come to the council meetings. Get involved. Ask questions. Be informed. I can't say it any more clearly.
That's right on the money, Doc.
Yeah, so come here, get involved, and get involved with the whole community as well. There's lots of committees you can participate with, including the Communications Committee. Speaking of things in town, the street fair is coming out on the 28th of June, okay? So it's going to be in town. It's a great event. Come participate, support the businesses. There's a lot of fun things to do. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday, June 28th. And support the town. See what the beautification committee's done to the downtown area. It looks great. Check out the new lampposts. Check out the new curbing. There's a lot of effort being put into making the downtown area a viable downtown area, but it's only viable if we support it as individuals.
Well said, Doc.
Thank you very much. Great show. We'll be back 3 weeks from the third Thursday of next month. Come on down. Participate here. Mayor, the Roundtable's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Doc. It was a pleasure.
We'll see everybody on the next show. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio. Thanks for tuning in.